I'm currently sat in the UK's cheapest John Cooper works, and in today's video we're going to be ripping that engine out.
Yep, that's right. I bought a crash damaged JCW thinking it wasn't going to be too bad, and it turns out it needs a new engine.
But we're not going to be doing it here at the Bosworks unit. It's not ideal to have two engines side by side and a car in there, especially when it gets used quite often. So very kindly I've been given a space to do this engine swap and still produce some content. But the first challenge is we've got to get there.
So we dragged the car out, up the drive, ready for the truck the next day. But it wasn't exactly straightforward when we got there. We had to put some lights up, mess with the power, and finally we had light. Talking of lights, headlights to be in fact, if you were following me on my social medias, last week you would have seen that I fitted these AUXTIO LED headlight bulbs to my R56 track car. So I've partnered up with AUXTIO to bring you guys a special discount. Whatever your car may be, they've got a lighting solution for it. So use the link in the description below, and when you check out, use the code JBCARS to get yourself a nice little percentage off. Anyway, back to the video. And now we were finally set up, we could start working. I ripped the wheels off, then Luke moved on to some heat shielding and I got the battery off.
I have no clue how that comes out.
With the ECU out and a battery tray out the way, we could access some coolant hoses, a PCV hose, and then tackle the gear cables, which you can see here, we were having a bit of an issue. So we were really struggling getting these gear cable linkages out, and we thought that you had to split these apart and push them together. Turns out, in there, as you pull this back, there's a little clip that just sits in the metal frame. All you have to do is literally split them apart and pull out. So there was 10 minutes wasted. It was then time to drain the gearbox oil, so when we remove the drive shafts, nothing leaks out.
Oh no. Got to get it all on my arm.
Yeah, push it. Yeah.
Right, gearbox oil is draining, so when we pull them drive shafts out, it'll come straight out with no spillage. Then I think we've got exhaust. Then I think it's literally get it hooked up on the crane and we're good to go. Got the Villa game on in the background. Vibes. I know.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Drive shafts both sides are out, and we're going to try and keep them into the gearbox so we can pull it out as one. We're now under the car. Gonna take this exhaust clamp off, which is looking hella crusty, along with some hangers. And after getting the exhaust off, it was finally time to get the crane in and take a bit of weight from this engine. I then started to unbolt all of the engine mount bolts from the gearbox side then moved on to the driver's side.
Cameraman. So, got the engine mounts off, but as you can see here, it's the camera. The engine wants to slide from underneath, but to make it easy with not catching the subframe, we're going to go up. So we're going to take this complete engine mount off, and hopefully just take it out.
So that engine mount was pretty easy to get off. It was 2 bolts and 1 bolt holding on an aircon line. So ripped that off, and finally the engine was free on the driver's side. With the engine mount off, we could finally get some height on the engine and start to pull it backwards, making sure that nothing was catching and everything was out of the way. So I'll leave you with this footage of me and Luke, bit by bit, crawling this engine backwards. As you could see, we were pretty happy we got it out. And like that, 2 non-mechanics have pulled an engine. Unreal. So now, it's time to start swapping things over. But you know what? It wasn't too bad actually. It's just making sure you've got everything disconnected and go from there. So with the engine out and on the floor, it was time to start stripping. So off comes the air intake, then it's the O2 sensors, and then it's the heat shields. So this heat shield is a pain in the ass. This goes on there, it was catching on this hose here, but I think we're getting there. It's just working it and getting around it. What a shame it would be if a D-cap pipe ended up there. So with all the heat shields and cap removed, I was planning on removing this as I thought it was a diverter valve, but it's actually the actuator. On my new one, it's broken. So I was just going to swap it over, but I didn't realise it actually controls the actuator. And obviously this is to do with the setup of the actuator. And it's actually different on that one up there. So part of me is thinking, just for peace of mind, to remove this turbo and fit it to that engine. But yeah, unsure on that at the moment. So to ease me out for the night, I decided to remove this top part of the engine loom. I think we're going to leave it here for today. I'll come back tomorrow, start stripping more of the wiring harness off, I think. It's dark now, we've been on this car all day. We've got a lot done. To say I've got the engine out, I've never done something like that in my life. It's pretty good. So now we crack on with the harness tomorrow and figure out if we're going to swap this turbo. Part of me saying I should because it looks slightly different. So another thing to do, but more content. We're back with the Mini. It's the next day after a long day yesterday. Getting this engine out and starting a bit of the swap process. But today I'm not sure what I want to do. I don't know if I want to work on the engine harness or get these turbos swapped over. You'll see in the next clip anyway. My mind was made up and I decided to swap the turbos. So First off, I started stripping off all the coolant lines going to the turbo, along with all the oil lines and unnecessary things like the turbo elbow. After removing all the lines, I could finally start unbolting the turbo and getting it off. So as you would have just seen, my turbo is now off. Some of the studs did come out, but that's not the end of the world, we can put them back in. Now it's time to get the turbo off that one, I think, and just get it done. But I won't show you that because you've just watched me do this. That's both turbos off. We've got the one off the new engine here, mine there. Only a few studs come out of this new one, so I'll show you that. Only a few of the mounting studs come out on this new one, so 3. So I'm gonna Loctite some studs back in, let that dry, and then we'll whack the turbo on. Right, the 3 studs are in. Everything is looking nice. It's time for turbo. So to fit it back to the new engine, it is literally the same process, just in reverse. Started off with a gasket, then I bolted up the turbo. And to finish off, all I had to do was put the coolant lines back on and the oil lines, and that was a job done. And that is that done. The turbo side of the engine is completely transferred over. There's literally like 2 plugs left, which you'll plug in once the new harness is on. But yeah, well happy with that. And that's gonna be it for today's video as well. We're fully set up in here now. It's took a bit from the last video, but we were trying to figure out where's gonna be best, so we're gonna do it at home or, but no, I've been kindly lent this space so we can get this done. And in the next video, we're gonna be swapping the rest and we'll see how far we get. So thank you, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I'll catch you in the next one.